Do you have a read yet on which positions in this class are deep enough that could benefit you, just in terms of depth of the position?
Well, there's always receivers. I mean, the college game, I mean, it's very conducive to developing receivers. So there's always going to be, good depth at the receiver position. I think this draft's pretty deep in the defensive front. So, never hurts to add to your defensive front. And then, tight ends, it's a tougher position to find because of the college game, but certainly they're out there. And then the offensive front, there's always some offensive linemen, but the way they play the college game, you got to project a little bit and work through where that's going to be. So, but big thing is there's a big number of them between the super seniors, the COVID seniors, if you will, that have played 6 years. I mean, there's a bigger number of people in the draft than there's ever been. So it's, I think, a great opportunity to find players out there. Our guys, Will and his staff and the coaches are certainly doing their work to get prepared for the draft. And, I think we've got a great opportunity.
Why did the organization decide it was better suited for Mike McCarthy not to come here and focus on the draft? And what does he bring to the draft?
Well, Mike has been around a lot of great football players. We've always been inclusive of our coaches in the evaluation process. And you've got it, which I think is one of Will's strongest suits, is getting the vision for what Mike and Kellen want to do on offense, for what Mike and Dan want to do on defense. I think, they got a vision for how they can fit into how we want to play football. And so we've always involved coaches in the evaluation process, and then in general, just Mike, working on the staff with his coaches, I think is important too. And he felt like that was the best use of his time. And we had a very small agenda from a competition standpoint. Obviously, I'm very involved on the committee and keep him very abreast. And he and I communicate all the time on what we're looking at from a rule standpoint. But that's one of the shortest competition agendas, I think, since I've been on the committee, and Jerry said since he's been on the committee. So, I just don't know that it was, we didn't have a major problem with him choosing to stay back and work with the coaches and do some draft work.
You have until mid-July to sign Dalton to a multi-year deal, otherwise he'll play under the franchise tag. Do you anticipate a strong push before then to get a long-term deal done, or are you pretty comfortable with the idea of
we got to see kind of where we end up with everything, from an overall standpoint. But obviously, the fact we franchise Dalton tells you all you need to know about what we think about him. So we'll just kind of see how that progresses.
Steven, what do you need from a center for Dak to be able to play at his highest level, and did you get that last year?
I think you can always be better. I think obviously Badaz is young, and but he's driven to be a great player, and I think you can always have improvement, especially when you're eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, when you felt like your team was better than that. Then we can have improvements in all areas. But certainly, I know he'll work to be better, and we'll see what we end up from a personnel standpoint. In terms of what the competition will be there. So, it's always great. Never talked to a coach who said the more depth and more competitive situations you can have make you a much better football team.
I think Mike was saying this morning that normally there's maybe around 150, 160 with draft grades, and you're looking at projecting maybe 220, 225 to start. Are those kind of the round numbers you're kind of looking at?
That's what I've gone over with Will, yes. Those would be good round numbers, and of course that's going to make us be even more, hopefully, really drill down even deeper to try to, keep those numbers where you historically would have them. But we also got to acknowledge if there's, football players that deserve to be on the board, then you got to acknowledge that as well. So it'll be interesting how we sort through that.
A general question about what the road ahead looks like now in terms of once you get back to the Star, what's the process like of just meetings and everything leading up to the draft?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is obviously we're, back to the old famous line, player acquisitions 365. I mean, we're going to be looking at free agency, and certainly, as free agency is winding down, there's could be some situations out there that are very, appealing to us. So we'll look at that, but obviously the main focus will be really rolling up our sleeves. You'll see that we're going to start having players visits, Dallas days, all the things that we do to prepare for the draft. So that'll be our main focus.
Was there any?
one or two more?
Was there ever any interest in Bobby Wagner, and how did those conversations go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dan's had a history with Bobby and knows him well, but it was just one of those situations where you look into it. He's a great football player, Hall of Fame type football player, and just as it turned out, it didn't work out with us.
Stephen, question that's less relevant to y'all right now, but more philosophical. A lot of teams need to match their quarterbacks to their systems right now as all these trades are going on. When you've been looking for personnel through the years, what's been the key to matching the quarterback and the system and ensuring that's a smooth transition?
Well, I think you match your quarterback to your system. That's done when you have your guy and you start to see that's who it is. Then if you got a great head coach and a great coordinator, then they start to say, hey, it was Tony, now it's Dak.
Yeah.
What does Dak do well? And then if you've got a great coordinator and a head coach or offensive minded, then they start to say, hey, with our personnel, with our offensive line, with Zeke, with the receivers we have, and then ultimately the most important one is Dak, how do we design an offensive system that best suits him?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks Stephen. Appreciate it.